Hello, good day everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about one of the most important lessons in Math 20, which is functions. And in particular, we're going to talk about the notation, evaluation, domain and range, and the graphs and symmetry of functions. So this is our goal for this video series. So number one, illustrate the difference of relations from functions. Important na important yon. What is the difference between those two? Number two, determine the domain, codomain, and a range of a function. So ngayon nyo lang siguro narinig yung codomain kasi madalas na naririnig. Or you were taught what a domain is and what the range is, but you were not taught what a codomain is. And number 3, interpret what do we mean by f of x. Number 4, find the natural domain of a function f when given the expression f of x. And number 5, the vertical line test to identify the graphs of functions. Number 6, determine the range of a function from its graph. Okay, range from the graph of the function. And number 7, obtain the intercepts of the graph of a function. And number 8, identify even and odd function. So, ito yung symmetry, yung odd and even function. Ang dami, no? Okay, so let us recall what do we mean by x cross y if we have two sets, x and y. So, this x cross y is just a set whose elements are ordered pairs xy, wherein the first component must come from this set and the second component must come from the second set. So it's just a set of ordered pairs xy such that the small x is in capital X and the small y is in capital Y. So bakit natin siya ni-review? Because we will define the notion of a relation using this concept or using the definition of this. So when we say a relation, it's just a non-empty set of ordered pairs. So take note, it is a set which is non-empty and it contains ordered pairs. So that is a relation. And when we say a relation from a set x to a set y, that is just a non-empty subset of x cross y. So meaning a relation from x to y is just a set which is non-empty subset of x cross y. Remember that is very important. So for example, we have the set x and the set y. And consider this set R. And as you can observe, the first component will come from capital X. You have x2 and x3, and the second component will come from y, meaning this R is a relation from x to y. So ayun lang yun. As long as you have a subset of x cross y, it's a relation, and as long as it is non-empty. Okay? And you can think of a relation from x to y if you can view it as an association of elements of x to those in y. So for example, you can think of x2 as something that is mapped to y1 and y2, x3 mapped to y3, etc. So that's what we mean by association of elements of x to those in y. Okay? So, punta naman tayo dun sa special case noong relation. So, you have the relation and then a special case of the relation is what we call a function. So, a function from x to y, which we write in this way, f, and then you have the colon from x to y. Yung arrow, yung ibig sabihin 2. Okay? That arrow means 2. So, it's a relation from x to y such that for each x in capital X, there is a unique y in y such that xy is in f. So basically, ang sinasabi nyo lang, may relation ka, so you have a set of ordered pairs. So first component will come from capital X, second component will come from capital Y, such that yung isang X mo, isa lang yung kapartner niya sa kabila. So that is a function. Okay? So yun yung sinasabi ng alternative definition dito, that each X is paired with exactly one Y. So titignan mo isa-isa yung X, tapos ilan yung kapartner niya sa kabila. Okay, so for example, ano ba yan? Sinulat ko na agad siya. Okay, so let's say we have this capital X and then this capital Y, and then we have this mapping. So it says here x1 is mapped to y1, x2 is mapped to y2, x3 is mapped to y2, x4 is mapped to y1. So, if you write that in set notation, ganito yung itsura niya. A function is just a set of ordered pairs because it is a relation. Ang tanong, function ba ito? Na-spoil ko na. Actually, it is a function. But why is it a function? Kasi kung titignan niyo yung mga x na nandito, for each one of them, let's say x1, it only has one partner na y. The same with x2, it only has one partner y2, the same for x3, same for x4. Oops. Same for x4, it only has one partner sa kabila. That's why this is a function. Okay. Okay, so let's do another example, or let's give another example for illustration purposes lang. Let's say our set A is the set containing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And B is the set containing the set of natural numbers. And then we have this set which contains the set of XY na ordered pairs. So first component will come from A, the second component will come from B. And then this XY satisfies this relationship Y equal to 2X, meaning for you to get the second component, you have to double the first component. So these are the elements of G. So the possible values of the first component will come from A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Linisin ko lang ito ha. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how do you get the Y component? You double the X based on this one. So you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So the question now, is this a function or not? Okay, so sinulat ko lang kung paano kinuha. So, ayan. Okay, and you can actually, and as you can see, each X is mapped to exactly isang Y lang. For example, 1, its partner is 2. 2, its partner is 4, etc. Each X has exactly one Y. That's why it is a function. So let's do this last example. Hindi man natin kailangan yan. Okay. So, is this a function or not? Number 3. As you can see, this x2 is mapped to two different y's, meaning this is not a function. R is not a function. Okay, and just a remark, all functions are relations, but not every relation is a function. If you're having a hard time remembering that, pwede nyong alalahanin itong drawing na ito. Relation, function. So, all functions are relations, but not all relations are functions. Okay, so more examples tayo. Let us determine whether or not the following represent a function. So, for number 1, ano ba yun? Nasulat-sulatan ko na. So, for number 1, is this a function? As you can see, walang to the same x is matched to different y's. Okay? So, this is a function, yes. Punta naman tayo dun sa next example natin. So, does this one represent a function? The answer is no, because you have the same x mapped to different y's. So 2 na map siya sa 3 and 4. So it's not a function. The answer is no. Okay, number 3. So is this set of points a function or not? So kung function siya, kailangan pakita mo na kapag naglagay ka ng isang x, isa lang yung y na ilalabas niya. Otherwise, magbigay ka ng isang x na dalawa yung y na lalabas. So what I would do here is if I let x equal to 0, what happens? We get 0 square plus y square equal to 1. Ang kutob ko dito hindi siya function. So mahalaga yung kutob ko to. And as you can see, 0, 1 and 0, negative 1 are in H. Okay, if you let x equal to 0, then you will get y equal to plus minus 1. You have 1x paired to different y's. Okay, same x, different y. So this is not a function. Okay, number 4, is this a function? Paano ba ito gagawin? You can write this one as y equal to x squared plus 2. So parang y depends on x. And what do we mean by y depends on x? Kapag nagpasok ka ng isang x dito, or nagpasok ka ng x value, you will get exactly 1y. So that's why this is a function. Number 4 is a function. Okay. Okay, so sinulat niya lang yung pinagsasabi ko. Okay, and this is another way of viewing function. You can view a function as a machine. So maglalagay ka ng input x, and the function does something to your x which produces the y. Ouch. Okay. Okay, so the value of y depends on the input value of x. And we call x the independent variable and y the dependent variable because y depends on x. And let's go to the function notation. Let's say if you have a point xy on your f, diba sabi natin yung function, based sa definition pa lang natin na ang function, set of ordered pairs. So let's say if this ordered pair is in f, sinusulat natin siya as y equal to f of x. Okay? So, y equal to f of x. Remember that. So, example, pakita na nga natin. Let's say we have this function. Okay, so x1 is mapped to y1, x2 is mapped to y2, etc. If you would like that to be written in our function notation, you should write y1 is equal to f of x1. y2 is f of x2. And then y2 can also be written as f of x3. And y1 can also be written as f of x4. This is a function. Because each x is mapped to exactly 1y. Isa lang ang partner nila sa kabila. Okay? Yun yung tatanungin nyo palagi. Iisa-isahin nyo yung mga x. So, ilan yung partner ni x? Ilan yung partner ni x na to? Ilan yung partner ni x? Kapag ang sagot doon ay laging 1, function yun. Pag lumampas sa 1, hindi na siya function. Relation lang siya. Okay, and when you have y equal to f of x, ang tawag doon sa mga y ay the image of x under f. So, pag nakita niyo yung phrase na y is the image of x under f, ito yung ibig sabihin yan. Or kapag nakita niyo yung x is a pre-image of y under f, yun yung meaning nun. Malinaw ba yun? Ano to? Parang unlocking words. Vocabulary siya. So, kung gusto nyo matuto ng math talaga, gusto nyo maintindihan siya, etong mga terms, mga lagi nyo siyang tatandaan. Okay, kasi ano siya, parang language learning siya, hindi siya numbers lang. Okay, so let's have this definition. Pag sinabing definition, ito yung tinatanggap na agad. Vocabulary siya. Okay, so let's say we have a function from x to y. We call this x to be the domain of f. Yun yung mga allowed x lang. At etong y, yun yung tinatawag nating codomain. And the range, ano yung range? Lahat ng y na nagamit mo. Okay, lahat ng y na may kapartner na x, or more technically, it is the set of y in the codomain. So meaning the range is a subset of the codomain such that y is equal to f of x for some x in your domain. So let us consider this example lang para mas magets natin. The domain, of course, is this one. The range, or codomain muna, mas madali yung codomain. The codomain is your y. What is the range? The range are these two, or the set containing these 2 points. Lahat ng y na nagamit lang. Okay, nagets ba yun? Or you can view it as, this is your domain, this is your codomain, and inside your codomain, you have the range. So, lahat ng laman ng domain mo, papadala niya sa range, which is inside the codomain. So, malinaw ba yung mga terms na iyon? So, wala pa tayong method dito kung paano kukunin yung domain, paano kukunin yung range, etc. Dinefine pa lang natin siya. Okay, so let's do one example. Let's say we have a and b again. Ito yung function natin kanina, right? So, g is a function from a to b such that for each x in your domain, it is mapped to 2x. So, yan yung mapping natin. So, what is g of 1? How do you get g of 1? You just replace x by 1. Feeling ko na-discuss na to in high school. So, that's why g of 1 is 2. G of 2 is 4, etc. until you reach g of 5. And again, the domain is this set, which is A. The codomain is still B. And what is the range? The range, lahat ng mga y na lumabas. Pag pinasok mo lahat ng values nung nasa domain mo. So, ang ina-expect nating sagot dito, the set containing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So, that is the range. Okay, kapag yung x value mo or a value is not in the domain, we say that f is not defined or does not exist at a. So, example, what is g of 6? As you can see, 6 is not a part of the domain A. So, you say g of 6 does not exist or is not defined or undefined. Okay, so is undefined. Okay, is that clear? So, proceed na tayo. Okay, so let us evaluate functions naman. So, if you are given f of x, which is an expression involving the variable x, this gives us a rule to obtain the images of elements of the domain. So, meaning, kapag binigyan ka ng x, nalalaman mo yung itsura niya, doon, yung kapartner niyang y, which is given by this rule. Yun lang yung sinasabi niya. So, let's say, if the function f squares a real number, so, ang ginagawa niya dun sa x mo, ini-square niya. That's why you have this function. So, these are just examples. If g of x adds 1 to a positive number, then g of x is x plus 1. So, huwag na tayong mag-dwell masyado dyan. Punta na tayo dun sa evaluation of functions. So, how do we get f of 2? How do you get f of 2? Just replace all the x's by 2. So, f of 2 is 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 2, or 4 minus 6 plus 2, which is 0. So, f of 2 is 0. Okay, so ginagaya niya lang talaga ako, right? So, number 2, what is f of negative 3? So, you do the same, just replace x by negative 3. And then you evaluate. Kayo na mag-verify ng mga ano to, kasi purely arithmetic na lang ito. Ang point lang natin dito is as you replace x by kung ano man yung, kung ano yung pinalitan mo dito, papalitan mo lahat doon to get the value of f of x. What is f of c plus f of 1? So that means, replace c here, plus you replace 1 here. Okay, nireplace nyo yung mga x dito by c. And then plus, replace x by 1. And then you just add these two combined like terms. You get c square. Okay, so kayo na lang mag-verify nun. C square minus 3c plus 2. Excited masyado. What is f of c plus 1? Just replace x by c plus 1. And then, combine like terms. And get that one. Okay, naintindihan ba yon? So, feeling ko familiar na naman almost lahat nandun. Basta ang take away lang naman natin dito ay kung ano yung pinalit mo dito, papalit mo din doon. That's how it works. Yun yung notation. Okay. So, ito, ang question dito, are these two functions equal? So, when do we know that two functions are equal? Okay. So, ito yung note ko dyan. Ano ba yan? Minumodify yung sulat ko. So, let f and g be functions. So, we say that f and g are the same. Iba yung pansulat ko ngayon kaya medyo iba yung interface. So if dalawa yung criteria na dapat masatisfy for the function to be the same. So dapat they have the same domain. This is a definition. So you have to accept it. So two functions are the same or equal if they have the same domain. So yun yung unang criteria. And parehas sila ng expression for all x in the domain of f. Pwedeng domain ni g kasi equal naman sila. Okay? So, kahit isa na lang, sige, domain ni f na lang. Kasi pareha naman yung domain ni f and g. Based dun sa first bullet. So, eto, masasagot na natin agad to. So, you have f of x equal to x square. And the domain of f is the set of real numbers. G of x is x square, whose domain is this set. Are these two functions equal? Mas nasatisfy niya yung second bullet. Pareha sila ng ginagawa. Ang tanong, pareha ba sila ng domain? Ang domain ng una real numbers, domain ng pangalawa is 0 to infinity. Those two sets are not the same. Therefore, f and g are not the same function. So the answer for that question is no. Binigay ko yung definition na yan kasi in-skip ko. May gusto kong i-skip. Okay. So, punta na tayo dito sa next one, finding the natural domain of a function. So, we consider real valued functions only, meaning the codomain is the set of real numbers, which will imply that the range is the set of real numbers. Ibig sabihin ng real valued function, magpapasok ka ng x, lalabas na real number. Okay? And for the second bullet ba yun? Or for number 2, if the domain of f is not specified, madalas natin ma-encounter ito hindi specified yung domain. Although yung previous examples natin kanina, hindi specify yung domain, diba? So ngayon hindi na siya specified. So, paano yung domain nun at saka yung range? So, domain na lang pala muna. So, paano yung domain nun? Okay? So, we take it to be the set of real number x such that yung image niya is a real number. Kailangan yung lalabas na real number. Lalabas na y ay real number. Okay? So basically, we only have two rules in finding the domain. So yung first restriction is that denominators should not equal to 0. So that is number 1. And then number 2, radicand or radicals with even index must be non-negative. So let's say you have nth root of something, where this n is even. That's what we mean by even index. The number here is even. So if you don't have an index there, automatically it's 2. So kapag ganito yung nangyari, if this one happens, so that something inside must be non-negative or greater than or equal to 0. Non-negative is positive or 0. So those are the only rules that we want. Okay, so let us find the domain of this function. So the set of xy such that y is equal to 2x plus 1. So lagi nyo lang tatanungin sa sarili nyo, meron bang bawal? Paano nyo malalaman yung bawal? Using this 2. So, what are the restrictions? In this case, you don't have a restriction for your x. Kahit anong x na real number ang ipasok mo dyan, you will get a real number y. That's why, in this case, the domain of f is the set of real numbers. No restrictions. Okay? Let's proceed with the next example. Let us find the domain of this function. Of course, the denominator cannot be equal to 0. So, x squared minus 5x is not 0. You can actually compute for the values of x that will make it 0. And then exclude that. So, x is not 0 and x minus 5 is not 0. Or what this means is x is not equal to 5. So, the domain of f is the set of real numbers such that you remove 0 and 5. X is not 0 and x is not 5. Or if you want a fancier way of writing it, right, set of real numbers, you take away, this means take away yung paslant na ganon. You take away the set containing 0 and 5. So, any of the two answers is acceptable. Okay, let's do another one. So, let us find the domain of this function. And as you can see, walang nakalagay na index. There's no index here, meaning the index is 2. It's an even index. And what do we do if we have an even index? The thing inside the radical is non-negative. So, x squared minus 4x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. And then, paano ba sinusolve to? Using yung technique natin sa inequalities, you compute for the critical numbers, right? So, pakita ko na lang para hindi masyado nagsusulat. So, the critical numbers are 1 and 3, and then you create the table, construct the table of signs. Hindi ko na masyado in-elaborate to kasi na-discuss na ito sa inequalities. And what is the domain? You want this thing to be non-negative. So, ito yung mga intervals na iyon. So, yung magiging sagot is this one. Okay, kasali yung 1 and 3 because these values will make this expression 0. So, that is the domain. Okay, set na ito. No need to ilagay sa isang set ng parenthesis. So, yun yung pagkuha ng natural domain. So, ano naman yung ibig sabihin by the graphs of functions? The graph of a function f is whose domain is x is the set of all ordered pairs x f of x such that x is in that domain. So, for example, this one and this one. Actually, ang gagawin nyo lang dyan, let y equal to f of x or g of x. Tapos, gagraph nyo na lang yun. Using yung mga techniques na natutunan natin sa conic, equation of lines, equation of circles, etc. Okay, so these three graphs, ay yung second lang ang nagre-represent ng function. So, how do we determine from the graph if it represents a function or not? So, we use the vertical line test. So, according to the theorem, any vertical line intersects the graph of a function in at most one point. So, for example, this is not a function. A vertical line intersects the graph at more than one point. What does it mean? Let's say, meron kang x kasi dito, napapartner siya sa magkaibang y, sa dalawang y. That's why it is not a function. For this one, this is a function because any vertical line intersects the graph exactly once. And this one, it intersects the graph exactly once. Okay. Basta isang beses lang siya na i-intersect. Okay, the range of a function is the set of all second elements of the ordered pairs. And the range of a real valued function f is the set of all y coordinates of the points of the graphs of f. So, balikan natin dito. Let us get the range. Range ng function, function lang usapan. So, ang range dito ay yung mga y values lang na nagamit mo si negative 3, bale po project mo lang sa y yun. So, negative 3 hanggang 3. So, that is the range. Yun yung ibig niya sabihin doon. Yan yung mga y coordinates. Kokolektahin mo lang lahat. Okay, punta naman tayo sa intercepts. Okay, so pag sinabi natin y-intercept, doon tumatama yung graph ng function mo sa y-axis. So, to solve for the y-intercept is set x to 0. And another one, the zeros of f are the values of x for which f of x ay 0. Or another name ng zeros ay x-intercept. Ginagawa mong y yung f, ginagawa mong 0 yung f of x. Diba ginagawa nga natin let y equal to f of x. So when f of x is 0, tapos hinanap mo si x, x-intercept lang yan. Oh my god, naunahan ko siya. Ginagaya niya lagi sinasabi ko. Okay, so for example, for this one, of course, it is a parabola kapag ginawa mo tong y, no? Right, from conic section. The domain is the set of real numbers. What is the y-intercept? Set x to 0. And then, ang makukumpit mo na value kapag ginawa mong 0 si x, you get 3. So, that is the y-intercept. And what are the zeros? Ito naman yung isi-zero mo, i-solve for x. Diba quadratic equation lang to. So, skip na natin yung part na yan. So, makukuha mo negative 1 and 3. So, yun yung x-intercept. You can actually sketch, for ano lang to, visualization purposes lang. And as you can see, ano yung zeros niya? Negative 1, 3. Yun yung x-intercepts. And the y-intercept is 3. Okay, yun lang yung gusto niyang sabihin dyan. Etong mga vertex chuchu para lang mag-graph niya. And now, punta naman tayo doon sa odd, even, and odd function. We say that a function f is even if f of negative x, ibig sabihin, if you replace x by negative x, you get f of x for all x in the domain of f. At ano yung physical interpretation niyan? Ang physical interpretation niyan is that, let's say you have x f of x, asan si negative x, f of negative x, ito yon, which is this point. So, dapat magtatapat sila with respect to the y-axis kasi even function ka if f of x is equal to f of negative x. So, ang kahulugan nun, itong mga y values na ito, ano ba yan? Ang pahat ng color. Gusto ko ibang color. Violet. So, meaning, kapag ayan, ano ba yan? Ito na nga lang. Okay, so meaning, these two are the same. So, magka-level sila sa y. So, ang effect is that a function is said to be even, ito yung geometric interpretation niya, if its graph is symmetric with respect to the y-axis. So, yun yung for even function. Meron naman tayong odd function. So, a function f is said to be odd if f of negative x is equal to negative f of x for all x in the domain of f. Ibig sabihin, lumalabas lang yung negative. Parang ganun yung effect niya. So, ganito yung geometric interpretation niya. Symmetric siya about the origin. So, meaning, this x, f of x, asan yung, this is negative x. Pag kinuha mo image niya, nasa ilalim dapat kasi f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. So, this, pag ni-negative mo, pupunta ka doon. So, kapag ganyan yung itsura ng graph mo, meron ka dito, tas meron ka doon, ang tawag dyan ay symmetric with respect to the origin. So, a function is odd if and only if its graph is symmetric with respect to the origin. So, paano nyo malalaman kung symmetric sa origin? Dapat yung point dito, pag nireflect mo sa x, tapos nireflect mo sa y, makukuha mo yun. O, reflect mo sa x, reflect mo sa y, you get that. Dapat magko-coincide pag tinupi mo sa x, tapos tinupi mo sa y. And take note lang, ang function, pwedeng even, pwedeng odd and even siya, pero pwede rin siyang hindi odd at hindi even. So, let us determine if this is odd or even. So, ang gagawin nyo lang, you just replace x by negative x. Okay, so I replace x by negative x dito. Makukuha natin ito. Kasama yung negative sa square. That's why you get x squared. And then you check this one in relation to the original function. Is it the original function? If yes, it is an even function. Is it the negative of the original function? If yes, it is an odd function. And in this case, as you can see, f of x, siya, kamukha. So meaning it is an even function. Okay ba yun? Ano bang itsura ng graph niyan? Okay, so, supplemental lang. Let y equal to f of x. Your graph will look something like this. Square both sides. Oops. So, x squared plus y squared equal to 4. That is a circle of radius 2. But your y is the square root of something which is not negative. So, ilalim lang. So, close yan. So, yan yung graph nung function mo. And as you can see, the graph is symmetric with respect to the y-axis. Even function siya. So, let's do another example. Let us determine if this function is odd or even. So, we do the same thing. You just replace x by negative x. So, kayo na lang mag-verify ng computation, ha? Okay, so, ni-replace lang to by negative 1, negative x, negative x. The absolute value of negative x is just absolute value of x. And negative x cube, kapag kinube may negative, magiging negative lang siya. And as you can see, that is the same as yung negative, pwede mo iusog doon. And in relation to the original function, this is your f of x. That's why you get equal to negative f of x. So, ang conclusion natin, we have an odd function. So, let's do this example. Let us determine if this function is odd or even. So, ganun ulit, i-replace x by negative x and check kung pareha ba siya doon sa original function. Ano mangyayari? Negative, tas negative. Okay. And then we have this and this. So, yung tanong, is f of ito yung lalabas, ha? Okay. So, ang tanong, is f of negative x equal to f of x? So, equal ba to dito? Obviously, no. Next question. F of negative x, is it equal to negative f of x? No. Pag ni-negative mo to, you will not get that one. So, ang answer, therefore, f is neither odd or even. And that ends our lecture on functions. So, sana na-gets ninyo. So, kung meron kayong questions, you can ask your discussion teacher about it. So, goodbye. See you sa susunod nating video. Take care.